We're here in the exhibit hall at EMS World Expo 2023, and it's been our absolute pleasure to have our guests at the booth, Kevin Hazzard and John Moon from American Sirens. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us at Expo.
No, thank you. It's so great to be here.
We've been here to do a book signing, and I've literally just spent the last 2 hours watching you hold court, John, and people love to talk to you and thank you. How's it been for you today?
Very inspiring. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, so I'm really enjoying this opportunity.
So I've interviewed you before, Kevin, but of course, everyone has a great book in them, right? And so, what was your motivation to write this great book?
I mean, as soon as I started looking into this, I immediately realized that not only was it an incredible story, but that it was an incredible story that people did not know. And then on top of that, every person who enters a story has a fantastic story themselves. So it just kept compounding and building, and there was just no way that you could turn your back on something like that.
And of course, you are central to this story, John. For that one person that hasn't experienced American Sirens now, give us your backstory, John.
Well, the backstory is it traverses back to my childhood when I was coming up in Atlanta, Georgia, and my life there during a segregated city, and coming to Pittsburgh, being adopted into a family I didn't know, and from that point on, having an opportunity to work for Freedom House, which at that time was a dream come true for me.
Wow. And so where did you two guys meet? Who approached who? Tell us that.
I approached John when I started researching this book. I was looking for names of anyone who had been involved, that had been interviewed, or who popped up at any point in the history. And John's name popped up fairly regularly. So I tracked him down, and one afternoon I called him, and to his credit, he answered the phone. And all these years later, he still, to my shock, still continues to answer.
Well, we thank you, but we'll stay with you, Kevin. Obviously, you spent a lot of time talking to John, but what was that one thing, that one story, that one tale that made you sit up and go, wow, and pay attention and actually feel even more committed about writing this story?
The first thing that hit was when John said that they actually had to race the police to the scene because the cops would try to steal these calls from them, and knowing that the cops had no sort of training whatsoever and delivered no sort of care whatsoever, and the fact that these young guys had gotten their hands on a police radio and were zipping through the city trying to beat the cops to these calls, and would show up with the engine ticking and the brakes smoking and hop out and then try to casually pretend like they had just arrived and that they weren't racing them. I just thought it was hilarious. And so I right then I knew that this was a story that had a lot of very rich facets to it.
So you were the man that raced the cops then, man on the ground. What was it really like though?
Well, it was a rather unique experience. It was very challenging, to say the least, because the community as a whole really didn't have a very good relationship with the police. So it became our job and responsibility to make sure that our community itself had more or less to rely on us as opposed to the police. And the drawback with that is, as Kevin mentioned, the police really weren't giving us the calls that we should have been gotten in our own community. So we had to find a way to do that, and that was to monitor the police radio.
An absolute trailblazer, John, and we thank you for that. And again, I just can't say enough how I've just enjoyed watching you, chatting to people who have loved talking to you, have hearing your story. And is there a second part of this, Kevin? Is there a story to continue to tell?
Not for me. This story is so incredibly rich and so full and so deep. There's a ton of it that can go on and be told, and if there's somebody who wants to pick up the torch and carry on another facet of it, then have at it. Let's do it.
You should turn it into a screenplay, by the way.
Well,
hang on, we're going to be breaking news here, ladies and gentlemen.
That is the world's most Byzantine industry. We'll see what happens there.
Okay, well, listen, it's been amazing. Thank you again so much for joining us here at EMS World Expo, and we've sold and signed a lot of books, and people are treasuring. And of course, the other thing is that not only have we been selling books here, but also people have been bringing their books in, flew them in to Expo to have them signed off by you guys, and of course that's been really special for them because I've been talking to people as they've been circling out, of the booth, and so thank you both for doing that. That's it for this segment. Thank you to John and Kevin, and back to you.